Hi, it's Karen, the Weekend Craftaholic, and thank you for joining me for chapter 6 of my Stash Busting September. Now, I've not made as much progress on this as I would have liked. It's just been one of those weeks. We all have them, don't we? But I will show you the progress I've made so far, and hopefully it gives you some ideas on using up your paper scraps. Before I get into that though, next week is the final week, so big shout out. I've got some fellow YouTubers joining me next Saturday. So you don't want to miss that one. That will be the best one. So there's going to be a hop. There's 5 of us and we will all be showing you ways of using up your stash in September. So there are lots of tips and tricks from other fellow YouTubers, which I'm sure you may have come across as well. If not, hopefully you find a new YouTuber that you'd like to follow. But let's crack on with today. So you may remember, if you saw my other video, I started with paper scraps. And can you see, I've managed to work my way through a little bit of it. It was originally all stacked like this, but I've actually found it easier to stack it this way. So all kind of sat up on the ends, probably because I didn't have that much of them. And hopefully you'll remember, just it actually filled the entire length of this tub. So if I just stand them up, quickly show you. I don't think you saw the finished one by the time I'd done with my journaling cards actually, because that made it grow, but this hopefully gives you a bit of a flavour of how much I have actually got through. So you can see I've got probably about a 3-inch gap here where I've managed to apply my way through. So I want to show you some of the things that I've done. Now it has been one of those weeks, and one of the things that I started to do and had to stop was a scrapbooking layout. But I thought I'd show you the basis of it anyway. So I've just stuck down random ones on this little layout. Of course you could just do it on part of it, diagonally on just half of it, whichever way you want to do it. You'll see it on Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, I will definitely finish this one off. So my idea is just to distress these edges, put some stitching, and it's been waiting here for 2 to 3 weeks and I've still not had the opportunity to finish it off, but I will do. So that was one idea with scrapbooking the 2x2 pieces, and that got rid of actually most of them. Now one idea that I had, and again didn't get a chance to actually complete it, but I want to show you because I think you might like the idea, is to create your own little swatch book. Now I've made sure that I'm going to be using the nice thicker pieces of cardstock and also the ones that are not double-sided, because I just want the white backgrounds to use. And my idea was to do a swatch book of my stencils. So quite often you see swatch books using Nuvo drops or your inks, your markers, all that kind of stuff. But for this I wanted just to have a swatch of all of the stencils I've got. Because I always forget which stencils I've got. When I'm in the shop, I never know if it's too similar to one that I've got. I don't have a heap of them, I'll be honest. And this does all link into my craft inventory, where I either have photographs in that, or I've got colour charts, that kind of stuff. But I haven't got anything with my stencils, so this one thing that was missing actually, that I wanted to use it for. If you saw my Vicky Booten video, you'll know I created my own little swatch ring here, just as Vicky does when I got my pigment powders, just testing out with different techniques. This was all on watercolour paper that I cut out, and I've made notes on the back of the experiments that I did, whether it was wet on dry, watercolours, wet on wet, gesso, creative effects, all the different things on here. So because I found this so useful after doing that, that's what gave me the idea with the stencils. So if you've not got little swatch books, they're always a great idea. And I'm just using the 2x3 inch cutouts that I've done here. You could always use the 3x4 if you wanted a bigger size, or if you've not got any of these left, of course you can cut them in half to create more of them. But yeah, I just think it's a really good idea. But even those in itself, they're very similar. The 3x4, they're similar size to the gift tags that I did before, as you can see. So whatever works for you, definitely consider using your scraps to make swatch books. The other thing that I love doing my scraps is backing cut files. This is a cut file set that I got, again, for a scrapbooking layout. All of these little pieces, these were just the 2x3 sheets again. I just got 5 of them and just kind of was able to cut 3 of these out from each of those scrap pieces. So again, it's all ready to go. When I do want to create my layout, I've kind of got all that done. And I love cutting and backing cut files, you know, in front of the TV. It's quite therapeutic. So that's another little job that you can get done, and another way of using up some of your paper scraps. Now another thing you may have come across, and if you saw my craft retreat video, you'll know I did quite a bit of this at the retreat, was this kind of paper piecing. So I did this last Sunday whilst I was on the phone to a friend, and you can see I managed to get quite a bit done. So I got 5 sheets of this done, and I tried to keep in the same colour family where I could. This one I just added this extra bit of different detail. But again, these are ready-made backgrounds, aren't they? You can use them on cards, you can use them on scrapbooking layouts, memory decks cards, whatever you wanted to do. You've got all of the scraps. So these were all that handful of scraps that I had, the manufacturer strips and so on. I made sure I add them in different thicknesses as well. I like the look of them being slightly different thickness. I think this is my favourite one, to be honest, the black and white one. And I just used this normal tape runner on the back. So that is another quite therapeutic way of using up your scraps, and I've got these now ready to go. And these will go back into my tub, which is fine because I know I've already got them and they're nicely organised. Speaking of memory decks cards, I did use this effect to make a memory decks card. Again, I just had a crazy week, so I didn't even post my memory decks Monday last week. I've been pretty absent, I have to say, on Instagram. Just with things that have been going on. I didn't even finish there, so I made a start and then just ran out of time completely. But hopefully you have time and you can make some of these paper scraps work for you. One of the things I did with some of my scrap was to get some of my stamps pre-stamped. So you can see here, this was one of the long fawn stamps. I've got the coordinating die. So I went through some of these smaller scraps and I just stamped out some of these sentiments as well as the images. So I've got them in there all ready to go, ready to colour in or ready to cut out, so that if I did need to make a card in a hurry, I've already got all of this done. So when I get a new stamp or die set, first thing I do is put it in this Ariel pocket, this 5x7. And you can see I keep my stamps at the front and then my dies at the back, and I keep them separated with, you've guessed it, a piece of scrap paper. So again, this is just plain white cardstock. It's just a little bit easier when you're flicking through them all rather than having them all merged like this. I know a lot of people also label the pockets. I don't, because I don't have that many of them. But of course, the other good thing is rather than use a labeling machine to put it on here, you could always then write it on the white cardstock that you've got here along the top, or whichever way you decide to file them. So that's another idea with your surplus white cardstock, is just have a stamping session. It's a lot of fun going through, stamping up as much as you like. And you could of course do something similar with just your dies. So you don't necessarily need to have the stamp set. You could also pre-cut a lot of your dies. So you'll see here, this is a very similar setup for me. Got the Ariel pockets with a piece of scrap paper inside, and on the front is where I keep the die itself. So this is a Pink Fresh one, mini hello word die, and then on the back is where I keep all of the pieces that I've cut out. Now I don't tend to do too many of these because, as you can see, they can get quite messy, so I probably do a couple of these in advance. And this is a great die because you get the outline as well as the inside for this. But you can see I keep all of these bits together, so whether I want to use the negative or the positive side of it, I've got them all good to go. And these were some that I created with the scraps as well in September. In fact, what I did, I went through my little tub, and any that didn't have supplies already made, I created them and I stuck them in the back or in the front with the stamps as well. I got a gel press and I didn't have much chance to play with it, but I did watch a Diane Risley video on scrapbook.com's YouTube channel, if you've not come across that, and she shows you how to use these, and you can see this is some of the stuff that I made with it. This was some of the scrap paper that I used with the brayer just to take off excess paint, but even they look quite good, don't they, with that texture. Definitely keeping those. Of course, if what you do you don't like, you can throw them away. It's just scrap paper, right? You don't feel as bad when you're not using your best paper. And this is all pattern paper. I've just used the white side on the back as a base for it. And what I've done here, for example, this is one of my favourites with using a stencil with that. Using up your scraps to practice and play with, I think is just a great. Speaking of, let me just grab this for you. So this was a new product that I bought, this texture paste. It's been around a long time, but I got it from the local scrapbook store here in Joondalup in WA. And let me move this out of the way actually. And again, I did something similar. I actually put this on a couple of these sheets, this time the coloured sheets, just to see how the texture paste would react to different backgrounds. Again, I used the same stencil that I used for that, but then so I wondered how the texture paste would react through the stencil, and then this was with spraying some mist over it afterwards. These I'll obviously throw away. I use the thinnest paper that I had, things that I'm not worried about throwing away, and it was a great way of me getting to know this new product. So I would always recommend when you've got new products just to have a play with them, and that's a great reason for keeping scraps on hand as well. So that brings us to the end of today's video. I know it was a very quick one, short and sweet. I did post a couple of videos yesterday though. If you've not seen any of the other videos in this series, there's 6 of them now. I'd love you to go back and start from the beginning. You'll get an idea then of the concepts of what I'm trying to achieve with all of my paper stash. And we've only got a week left in September where I'm going through stash busting. So I'd love you to check back again next week, see what we create. I've got some more hints and tips to share with you, as well as show you a little bit of a review of my overall process for the end of this series. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for watching and have a great crafting week.